Harold Shipman, the doctor who killed over 250 patients. Harold Shipman was trusted by thousands of patients in the UK, a respected doctor who seemed to hold their health and lives in his hands. But behind his white coat lurked one of the most prolific serial killers in modern history. Over decades, Shipman betrayed the very trust that gave him authority, murdering over 250 people under the guise of medical care. His victims, many elderly and vulnerable, believed they were safe, relying on a man sworn to save them. Families who handed their loved ones into his care would never see them alive again. The chilling question arises: how could someone so trusted commit such unimaginable acts? This is the terrifying story of Harold Shipman, the doctor who became a symbol of betrayal and horror. Even decades later, the horror of Shipman's actions resonates across the world. He exploited trust, fear, and the natural vulnerability of the sick, turning care into a weapon. His crimes reveal how appearances can be deceiving and how authority can mask darkness. Every patient lost was a person with a story, a family, and a life abruptly ended. Society relied on him, yet he shattered that faith completely. This story is not just about murder, it's about the fragility of trust, the danger of blind faith, and the unseen evil that can lurk behind ordinary faces. Shipman's life serves as a warning that trust must be balanced with vigilance. Who was Harold Shipman? Harold Shipman was born in 1946 in Nottingham, England, and trained as a doctor, eventually gaining the trust and respect of his community. He seemed dedicated, compassionate, and professional, cultivating an image of reliability and care. Patients saw him as a kind, attentive physician who would go to great lengths for their health. Even colleagues trusted him, unaware of the dark secret he carried. Behind the smiling doctor persona, Shipman harbored a killing compulsion that would lead him down a murderous path. His calm demeanor and professional success masked the growing danger he posed to those around him. Shipman's rise in the medical field made him appear untouchable, a trusted figure no one suspected. However, beneath the surface, there were early signs of troubling behavior. Some colleagues noticed inconsistencies in his practice, but nothing could hint at the magnitude of his crimes. Shipman was meticulous, blending normalcy with deception in a way few could detect. Patients felt safe under his care, unknowingly giving him access to their lives in the most intimate way possible. This combination of trust and authority would allow him to operate undetected for years. Shipman's outward appearance of professionalism and charm was the perfect cover for his deadly intentions. By the time suspicions arose, countless lives had already been lost to his calculated cruelty. Harold Shipman's method of killing. Shipman's method was as chilling as it was methodical. He primarily used lethal doses of painkillers, often administering them to elderly patients under the guise of treatment. Deaths appeared natural, frequently attributed to age or illness, making suspicion nearly impossible. Many victims were those least likely to resist or question a doctor's authority. His position allowed him to forge death certificates and manipulate records, creating a false sense of normalcy. Families trusted him completely, never imagining the harm he was capable of. Over time, Shipman developed a pattern, selecting victims who would not raise alarms and carefully covering his tracks. The meticulous nature of his killings allowed him to operate undetected for decades. Each injection, each death certificate, was calculated to appear legitimate. Shipman exploited both medical knowledge and societal trust, showing how skill can mask malevolence. Victims were often isolated, living alone or dependent on care, which made them easy targets. Even when questions arose, the system failed to recognize the pattern immediately. Shipman's manipulation extended beyond the living. He controlled the narrative even after his victims had died. The chilling truth is that his profession gave him both the means and the cover to commit murder on an unprecedented scale. Discovery of suspicious deaths. Suspicion began to grow when unusually high numbers of patients under Shipman's care were dying. Colleagues and local authorities noticed patterns in death certificates that didn't align with normal statistics. Families, initially trusting, started raising questions about sudden or unexplained deaths. Autopsies and audits revealed inconsistencies, pointing to a sinister reality hidden behind the doctor's calm demeanor. Investigators began connecting the dots, uncovering the scale of Shipman's crimes. It became clear that the deaths were not isolated incidents, but part of a horrifying pattern. The slow recognition of his crimes allowed the magnitude of the tragedy to unfold fully, shocking the nation. Authorities faced the grim task of piecing together decades of deception. Records, testimonies, and forensic analysis revealed that Shipman had used his position to exploit the most vulnerable. Elderly patients, reliant on him for care, had been systematically targeted. His meticulous documentation made it difficult to detect the crimes initially, prolonging his deadly spree. Investigators were horrified by the realization that the killings had been deliberate, not accidental. Each discovery added to the public's disbelief and outrage. The story of Harold Shipman became a dark chapter in British medical history, illustrating how trust can be weaponized. Some of the victims. Among Shipman's victims were ordinary people whose lives were quietly ended, leaving families devastated. One elderly woman, dependent on Shipman for care, died suddenly, and her grieving family could never imagine foul play. Another victim, a devoted community member, was found lifeless at home, her death attributed to natural causes. Children of elderly patients had no warning, losing parents who had trusted the doctor completely. Some families noticed patterns only after multiple deaths, compounding grief with horror. Each life lost carried a story, a personality, and a network of people left behind to mourn. Shipman's victims remind us that the true cost of his crimes extends far beyond statistics. It is measured in grief, loss, and shattered trust. The emotional weight of these deaths is immense. Families describe the lingering trauma of having entrusted a loved one to someone who betrayed them utterly. The elderly, often isolated and vulnerable, were particularly targeted, highlighting the predatory nature of Shipman's actions. Survivors lived with unanswered questions, doubting their memories and decisions. Communities, once proud of their trusted doctor, were left in disbelief and fear. Every case adds to the chilling picture of a man who turned care into a weapon. The stories of his victims humanize the tragedy, emphasizing that behind every number was a life stolen. Harold Shipman, Arrest and Confession. Shipman's crimes finally came to light in 1998, when suspicious deaths prompted a full investigation. Authorities discovered clear evidence linking him to dozens of fatalities. The careful patterns he had relied on began to unravel, exposing the extent of his murders. Shipman was arrested, and the public struggled to reconcile the image of a trusted doctor with that of a serial killer. During questioning, he initially denied wrongdoing, maintaining a facade of innocence. Evidence from death certificates, autopsies, and witness testimonies made denial impossible. The shockwaves of his arrest were felt across the UK as families and colleagues confronted the horrifying truth. Investigators painstakingly documented his crimes, uncovering decades of carefully concealed murders. The meticulous work revealed the horrifying reality. Shipman had killed hundreds of patients over many years. His demeanor, calm and professional, never revealed the darkness lurking within. The confession process was both chilling and surreal, as the man who had saved lives was shown to have taken them deliberately. Media coverage spread rapidly, shocking a nation and drawing worldwide attention. Families finally received answers, though the pain of loss remained. Shipman's arrest marked the end of his reign of terror, but the beginning of national reckoning. Harold Shipman, trial and sentencing. The trial of Harold Shipman was a landmark case in British history. He faced multiple charges of murder, with the court examining both evidence and motive. Prosecutors painted a picture of a methodical killer exploiting trust to take lives. Shipman was convicted of 15 murders initially, though later investigations revealed the scale of his crimes was far larger. Sentencing reflected the gravity of his actions, ensuring he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Families and the public were both horrified and relieved that justice was served. The case shook the medical community, raising questions about oversight and ethical responsibility. The trial also served as a warning to institutions that trusted authority figures too readily. Experts testified on the psychological profile of Shipman and the red flags ignored for decades. The court emphasized that his crimes were calculated, deliberate, and unprecedented in scale. Public outrage fueled reforms in medical auditing and death certification practices. Shipman's sentencing highlighted the importance of accountability, even for those in positions of great trust. For families, the verdict was bittersweet. Justice could not bring back loved ones. The trial remains a landmark in criminal and medical history, illustrating the deadly consequences of misplaced trust. Harold Shipman's legacy. Harold Shipman's crimes left a permanent mark on the UK and the world. The medical system was reformed to include stricter oversight, audits, and monitoring of doctors' practices. Trust in medical professionals was shaken, forcing communities to confront the reality that authority does not guarantee morality. Psychologists and criminologists study Shipman's case to understand manipulation, compulsion, and the abuse of power. Survivor families and communities remember the lives lost and the grief left behind. Shipman became a symbol of the worst potential in trusted figures. His story serves as a chilling reminder that vigilance and accountability are essential in every profession. Even today, Harold Shipman's case teaches a vital lesson about the fragility of trust. He exploited the very system meant to protect lives, showing that appearances can deceive. The lives he took remind us that evil can hide behind the most respected faces. Faith in professionals should be balanced with awareness and scrutiny. Society must learn from this tragedy to prevent future horrors. Shipman's legacy is a warning. Never surrender judgment blindly, even to those sworn to care for us. The story of Harold Shipman will forever remain one of betrayal, horror, and the importance of vigilance. The story of Harold Shipman is a chilling reminder that blind trust can be dangerous, even in those sworn to save lives. Just because someone wears the uniform of authority, a doctor, a leader, or a figure of respect, does not mean they are beyond suspicion. Evil can hide behind kindness, professionalism, and charm, masking intentions that are deadly. We must remain vigilant, question unusual behavior, and advocate for accountability in every system of trust. Families, communities, and institutions cannot assume that trust alone guarantees safety. The lives lost to Shipman remind us that oversight, awareness, and caution are essential, even in the most trusted professions. Above all, this tragedy teaches a vital lesson. Never surrender your judgment blindly, even to those who claim to act in your best interest.